I heard Ethan Hawke say something super fascinating about the Before trilogy. And so after hearing this, I went back and rewatched all three of them, and it's changed the way I see it forever. If you don't know, the Before trilogy is Before Sunrise, 1994, Before Sunset, 2004, and Before Midnight, I think it's 2014-ish, about every 10 years. Story of two characters played by Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke who are romantically involved. They find each other, they lose each other, they find each other, and then who knows what happens. So if you know the story, this is what Ethan Hawke said. At the end of filming, in the very last scene of Before Midnight, where they're on they're at the outdoor restaurant cafe, they're on the water, on a pier or whatever, and they're sitting there, and somebody says to Ethan Hawke, or he realizes, isn't it interesting that this is the last time we're going to see these two characters, and they're fighting, and they're yelling, we don't know, they've been through all this stuff, we don't know if they're going to make it, we don't know what's wrong, we just know that they're two people who are struggling. Isn't it interesting that it's ending the same way that it begins? Now, if you remember Before Sunrise in 1994, they're on a train, a German couple are fighting, two people fighting, and Julie Delpy's character gets up and sits by Jesse, played by Ethan Hawke, and that's how they first meet. So they meet and they start talking like, do you know what's going on there? Boy, that's crazy, huh? A couple fighting. Isn't that crazy? I'm sure it's been thought about before, but Ethan Hawke mentioned this in an interview as if it hadn't really been talked about, because he had said this is how it came to him. Maybe that's what he hadn't mentioned before, was how the idea came to him sitting in the last scene, the shoot day for the last movie, Before Midnight. So I went back and rewatched them, and it's just crazy how much these things align. I don't know if the scripts for all the movies are, how much improvisation is happening throughout them. I know that it's a script that was really worked on by Linklater, and I think Julie Delpy, maybe Ethan Hawke. But just to think about how these things happen, it may not have been planned or even thought about when it was filmed, but that you realize something afterwards. That's one of my favorite things in films, is when you realize something profound that happens in the middle, happens either in a major part of the movie, or it just becomes like a major element of the film, or the film trilogy in this case, and it just changes everything. Because now it brings up all these questions about, like, okay, so is that the fate of everyone? For most people, 95% of people or whatever, you see an older couple fighting, you're young on a train in Europe, think you can avoid it, everything's there hot and heavy and all that. And there's a lot of profound things being said in all three movies, I think. So it's not like the two of them were naive going into this or anything. Because at one point, and I think Before Sunrise, Julie Delpy says, or maybe it's Before Sunset, where you think you're going to meet all these amazing people in your life and have relationships with them, and it ends up just being a couple. And so when you're in the thick of their argument in Before Midnight, and they're on the pier, and you think it's a nosedive, right? She said she doesn't love him anymore, and that's it. And then he starts to pull up with his little shenanigans, and then you get this kind of thing, and maybe it's like this, and who knows. But just to think about what happened to that German couple. I would like to know. I wish they should make the fourth trilogy should just be that German couple at the beginning of Before Sunrise, and I want to know what happened to them. Because if they pulled out of their nosedive, maybe it gives hope to other people. And that's really what this is about, isn't it? It's about the lifespan of a relationship, and how you do that, and how many of us survive. Think about all the people you've been with in your life and had a relationship with, whether it's short or middle of the road or long term. Obviously the long term stuff I think tends to be much rarer, at least for me. And to think about the lifespan of it and the things you go through and how you keep things alive. Are you delaying the inevitable here, that you're just going to come to a place, no matter who you are, where you just can't fucking take it anymore, or they can't take it anymore, or you both can't. Maybe it works out for the people who they just don't want to get divorced at the same time. One of them wants to get divorced 1 year, and then they're okay for a few years, and then somewhere in the middle there the other one does, but the other person still doesn't, or something like that. And it's all these things that you can't control. And that's why I really like this thought that he has, where he's talking about, coming full circle. The beginning is like the end. Different people, different relationship, same result. And you can't, think about the span of these movies from 1994 to 2014, and they're happening in real time, essentially, right? They're 20 years older when they make the third one. To think of all the things that happened for 20 years, I mean, you can fake things for a long time, but 20 years, that's a long time, especially if you're living with someone. Well, I guess they were only with each other for 10 of those years. But 10 years is a long time, and you can't keep up and act. The mask is gonna rip. It's all gonna come crashing down. You can't do it for that long. Maybe a few months, maybe a year, but not much longer than that. My point is that you have to let go of control. You're not going to be able to navigate or curate this thing, and if you are, it sounds like a terrible life. And maybe that in itself would be the thing that shuts you down. Maybe you get into a relationship where you're not. You could keep going, but you don't like the way that you're approaching it, and so you get tired of that. So there's an infinite. It's kind of like making movies. There's so many places where it could fall through the floor, right? Relationships are just like that. This has to be one of the greatest trilogies on love and relationships and how time erodes things or doesn't erode things, and how you navigate through tricky situations, throw in different elements for a relationship, money and family and all that, and it just gets a little bit trickier, and you gotta, it's like having all these things you gotta navigate through like an obstacle course. And this has got to be one of the greatest artistic creations about that experience. Each one of them has these beautiful concepts behind them, or central points. Before Sunrise feels like that jolt you get from meeting someone. You connect with them. The serendipitous nature of it, the chance meeting. If someone gets on a train, the next train, or a different day, or they get in a different car in their case, or if they're on the two of them are on there, but the German couple's not, and then they're not fighting, she doesn't move. And then Before Sunset with, him writing the book and her finding her, but he's married at the time, so she expects him to be, have a full life and to be content, and just to see them at the end. The first time I saw Before Midnight in the theater, I saw all of them in the theater, I hated it so much because I felt like I just don't want to see a mirror here, for my own relationships or what my relationships will experience. I'm seeing it on screen, the fighting and there's I don't want to generalize here for either character or who they represent, but there are these, it's almost like a template in a way, the way they're not hearing each other or what they're arguing about or how they're arguing. There are a lot of similarities, I think, I would guess, between, maybe it's just me, between their experience and a significant portion of people's experience. I think in relationships they end up being about a lot of the same things. So that one was a tough one to watch because I feel like the first one is full of energy, and it ends so interestingly with them not giving each other their numbers and agreeing to meet 6 months later. And then the beauty of the middle one being about recovery or grasping victory in the jaws of death or something, that kind of beautiful, you feel like there's some sort of a fate being involved, the universe being involved in these two getting together, and the hope of that second one as well. So 2/3 of the trilogy are very wonderful and uplifting, and I think there's some great moments in the third one for sure, but just that screeching halt, what seems like an inevitable experience, an inevitable stop along the route on the train, that you're going to stop in Breakupsville or Strugglesville or all these problems, and how do you navigate through them, and does it even matter? You can navigate through them, but maybe other things happen. So, anyway, I just wanted to share that quote with you that he said and the thought he had behind it, because I thought it was really fascinating, and it was great to go back and watch these three. I like to do it every couple of years. They're just so enjoyable. They just go down like fine wine. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the theory, the idea, or the cyclical nature of it. Put it below. Don't forget to sign up for Movie Raffle Club on my Patreon. You join. If you're a member of the Patreon, I put your name in a bowl, pull it out, and send the winner surprise DVDs. You can't ask for anything better than that. Tangible appreciation for your support. All right, before Trilogy, 3 thumbs up.